I'm Chris, and today we're going to cut some wood. Let's do this real quick. Now there's many different tools you can use to cut the wood, from the small pocket saw to a larger pocket saw, from a big knife to a little knife, tree saw to a handheld saw, small hatchet to a larger axe, to the wood itself. We're going to go over everything so you have the tools you need to get your fire going. When using the pocket saw, we have to make little handles for us. Otherwise, if you try to use it like this, you are going to kill your fingers. So first thing you need to do is either cut or break out some handles. You could also use your knife and kind of chip away at the wood. Chip all the way around, and then eventually you can just break it off. You can make a little groove right here. You just want to take little bites of wood out. Just enough to have it rest inside there so it doesn't slip one way or the other. Where you made the notch on the wood, place it downwards right into the ring, put your fingers around, and hold on tight. It works better if you got a little bit of a wider grip when using the saw. Too close together, it might get bound up. Now when using this chainsaw, hold on tight. Pretty much the same thing as the smaller one. Now with the bow saw, hold your piece of wood firmly. Always remember, be safe. Be mindful of where the saw is going, who is around you. Every tool has its purpose. I would use the bow saw to get this piece of wood down to size so I could use it with my axe to split it. And then further from there, either split it with my axe, or my hatchet, or my knife. Now for saws like these, I would mainly use them for cutting the limbs off of trees. If there was a dead fallen tree, I would use these to cut that up. Cut the smaller diameter pieces up. I would also use this for trimming some limbs off of a tree, and the same for cutting down larger pieces of wood into more manageable sizes. Now if you didn't have these items and all you had was your knife, there's a couple more techniques you can use to get big stuff down to the size you need. If you have a big piece like this, what you can do is the good old baseball bat swing against a tree. Be mindful, you could damage the tree. But if you don't have a knife, this is a great way to cut this in half. You just take a good old swing. And it's cut down to size for you. Honestly, this method eats up a lot less calories. And also be mindful of who's around you, who's in front of you, who's behind you, because that piece of wood went flying about 15-20 feet away. You don't want to injure somebody. Another way you can break a big piece of wood like this is to take it and hit it right on the edge, either on a stump, a log that's fallen over, a rock, whatever you might have around that's handy. And you simply just let gravity do the work for you. That eats up a lot less calories than sawing through it. Whichever way you're going to cut the log, you have to pick the right log to do it. Something about this size, which I would say is the size of your leg, you could whack that against a tree. You're going to hit it against a log or a rock, provided it's not too heavy, it's not too wet. If it's green wood, you might have a little bit tougher time. This was dry standing wood. You don't want to do anything stupid. Alternatively, you can chop this with your axe. Normally I would do this on the ground, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you. Make sure you're in a safe area. Make sure there's nobody in front of you and nobody behind you. Just in case your axe head decides to go flying, you have to pay attention with which direction that might go in. You don't want to hurt anybody in any situation. If you had a smaller hatchet, it's not much different. I also wouldn't want to have my hand over here. If I missed and hit a glancing blow, I could potentially cut my arm. When you get about halfway down, flip it over and then work from the other side. What you want to do is chop from one angle to the other. You want to get those wedges out of there. At this point, you could just drop the log and it'll split right in half for you. Once you get the wood down to the proper size, you're going to want to split it further to get down to the smaller pieces. Practice proper safety technique. If you want to split a log with an axe or a hatchet, take a knee. Put the piece of wood on a flat piece of ground where it's not going to move on you. Get back far enough to where you're at arm's reach. So if you miss or you hit a glancing blow, it's going to go off to the side. There's no way it's going to swing and hit you and cause serious injury. Also, take note if there's any cracks in the wood. You want those splits to be in the direction that you're cutting the log. That will help you split the wood. You could split it in half the traditional way. I would recommend something slightly different. Lay your log down on a flat surface, take your hatchet or your axe, and hit it right into the piece of wood. Once you have it like this, move your hand up in the middle, it should split in half. Now when you do something like that, be mindful if you don't have your hand in the right spot, you're going to pound your fist into the wood. So you want to use caution with this technique, practice beforehand. Now there is another technique to split a log like this in half if you didn't have an axe or anything like that. You want to take your saw, even your pocket saw, cut halfway down into the wood, halfway in the log. Then take that piece of wood and hit it on a log. And it should split right in half. And what you can do is turn it to the other side and do the same thing. And it should split right in half. And then you can process this down further with your knife, put it right at the edge of it. Take your baton, which is just another piece of wood, preferably a green piece of wood, and just give it a whack. One of the benefits to having a bigger knife is its chopping ability. Now it's a lot of work, it's not an axe, it doesn't replace an axe, but it can substitute in an emergency. Now you don't need a big knife to process the wood further. You can use a smaller knife, and it's the same technique. Now you want to pick a piece of wood that your knife blade will actually fit all the way through, so you do have something to hit on. But a small knife works just the same. Now when you get it down to about this size, when you have it like that, where it's like a slice of pie, cut the pie in half. And then take this piece and cut that in half. So as you get it into smaller pieces, you're going to end up with pieces that are about finger thick. You want to get these pieces down a little bit smaller. Process them down just the same. Now at some point it's going to get too small to where you can't split it any further. That's when I get enough of these small pieces, like that, keep them in a pile. And I'll take the slightly larger pieces and I'll just start shaving with my knife. You can go ahead and make shavings, make feather sticks, and if your tools are kept sharp, you should be able to make shavings from whatever tool you have aside from the saw. When your knife is not in your hand, it better be in your sheath. Do not leave your knife laying around. It is unsafe, unnecessary. When you're working with your knife, have the blade pointed away from you so that there's no chance you could slip and hit yourself. When doing fine detail work with your knife, like making a feather stick, do not put your knife on your leg or work anywhere near your leg. If you slip this way, your knife is going to go into the ground, not into your leg. You want to be mindful of who's around you and where you're positioned. You don't need unnecessary injury. You want to have your work in front of you so that there's no way when you slip, you're going to hit your leg. Keep your knife close to your body. If anything, pull the wood away. Especially if you're trying to shave like green wood. Keep your knife close and pull it away. This will eliminate any type of big stroking movements with this hand if you're keeping it taut this way. This arm's free to move. Be mindful, don't get too high, watch your knuckles, watch your fingers, make sure everything is behind your knife. You also have to be mindful of where your knife is still going to go. You want to keep the area clear of the path of your knife. Think about what could happen to avoid what you don't want to happen. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Definitely share this video with your friends and check out some of my other videos. And remember, don't do anything silly or stupid when you're working with tools like this. They're very, very sharp. You can get injured. Injuries take a while to recover from. I cut my finger so deep one time, you could see the tendon. It took about 6 months for me to get full range of motion back into my finger and not have any pain when I bend it. You don't want to screw up and do something stupid. Work safe. Be mindful of where your tools are going to go if you screw up. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.